Hey everyone, and welcome back to a brand new video. We are back again discussing something that we repeatedly discuss, the Chanel price increase. And this is not something that is new. We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it and other rumors that have been circulating on social media and forums and things like that. So we'll get into that. First off, I am incredibly behind with editing backlogged footage as well as filming new content. There have just been other things, of course, like work and such that take priority. And as you know, this is just a hobby for me, and it's really nice to interact with all of you in the comment section, and I do really love and appreciate that. And I am very, very sorry. I do want to post on a more consistent basis. My schedule was usually a new video every Saturday, and that seemed to work really well. It was a great rhythm, and lately I've been skipping out on that, so I do apologize, and I will make the effort to sit down and just edit and then push and then schedule them as they come. The only thing is that some of them may be a little bit passé and irrelevant now. You know, I did a video on the Fendachi collection, well, not collaboration, but like the Fendi designing everything for Versace and Versace designing everything for Fendi from Paris Fashion Week, and because I thought it was just amazing. This is the first time I've ever seen something like that, so it might be a little bit irrelevant, but I'll still post it, and as well as the Chanel Spring Summer 2022 runway show and talking about that. But since that's going to be released next year, I think we still have time for that, although the order books have closed I think about 2 weeks ago, so whatever, we'll talk about it. And then as well as the upcoming cruise collection, I have a video on that as well as sharing some things that I've purchased and for fall that I thought I'd share with you guys, and perhaps you know, if you'd like to check out as well. So do stay tuned for that. I don't think I've formally in the recent videos announced the winner of the 5,000 subscriber giveaway. So there was a brooch that I gave away, and the lucky winner was Karine from Montreal, and she messaged me a couple of weeks ago when she received it, so she's extremely happy. And now I have a lovely friend in Montreal who I can practice my conversational French with, which is really nice. So it's great. She messages me in French and I message her back in French, so it's all fun. Let's get into the topic of the video. So allegedly there were rumors circulating about 2 months ago that there is a price increase coming November 1st, which is only a couple of days away for Chanel. And the rumor was that there is a price increase, which we always expect at this time of the year. Usually there's a price increase for Chanel in November, and then there's another one that happens before the summer, so usually end of May, beginning of June. And the November one usually hits before the cruise collection, and my birthday's in November, so happy birthday to me. But there's always one, and I have always known that there was a price increase. It was expected. And the rumor was that the classics will be spared. So the classic flap, the 2.55 reissue, the boy bag, the Gabrielle, as well as the Chanel 19, which are all deemed classics as part of their classic line, that this time they'll be spared. Even last year, I believe in November, the classic flaps and reissue 2.55 bags were spared from the increase. And apparently Canada didn't get the increase. Here there was a currency adjustment, but Canada didn't have the increase like the US did, because as you know, the purpose of increases are, yes, to limit demand in a way, but also to harmonize prices globally due to currency fluctuations. And as such, because we are in the P word, C19, panorama, whatever you want to call it, Pandora, whatever, there has been a lot of uncertainty in the financial market and in the economy and with supply chain, and so numbers are all over the place. So the US actually was cheaper to purchase Chanel as a Canadian, but we couldn't travel there obviously because of their dollar and everything in relation to the Canadian dollar, and as well as the pricing. And now they've had far more increases than Canada has, and we're literally about the same, except for, you know, obviously tax rates that might change, might be different from our province to whatever state you're shopping in. So the rumor was that the increase will only apply to bags that haven't really undergone a significant increase, or items that haven't undergone a significant increase. So that would be, I have a screenshot here from LVCC Lux, and this is from like many days ago, but price increase for the following: the Deauville tote. I do have the Deauville tote. I'll show you this here in the leather, and it comes in canvas as well. Mine is very heavy because I use it literally every day. I stuff it to the brim with all my work stuff. And I did want to add a black one to my collection, but we'll see what the price is now. So this actually was the cheapest and biggest bag that you can get at Chanel. The box for this is ridiculous. So you get a lot of bang for your buck. And at the time, these were about less than 5,000, which is considered very affordable for Chanel at the way that prices are going now. So I don't know what the next retail price would be, but this has not really gone up, so it was due time that you were expecting for these bags to go up. The next bag is the Trendy CC, which is here. This is actually an amazing bag, fully leather, and I was also quite surprised that this didn't go up as aggressively as the classics, but this is a seasonal bag, but it's quite classic looking. And there was really I don't think there was a formal announced increase on the Trendy CC, but in July of 2020, the price of that was $6,400 last time I checked. And now, over the course of the year, there were currency adjustments, and lo and behold, you know, like not formally announced price increases, just every collection they would just bump it up a little bit. And right below my nose, it went up to $69.50. So that was like a $550 increase on this bag in the span of a year. And now that is also going up as well. So apparently, I did ask, and I was told, because they were ringing it up, I don't know if this is true, but it's going to be around $7,300. So, which really sucks. It's a great bag. It's fully leather, and yeah, it's amazing. So I can understand why it's going up, but that's what they're saying. The costume jewelry. So costume jewelry, particularly Rev pieces that are permanent in their collection and come back every so often. So I'm talking about the new Paris button earrings, the ones like the big CC dangle earrings. I've shown you those before, as well as you know, the necklaces, like the classic necklaces, classic earrings that you'll see every season, the pearl drop earrings, which are very, very classic and very popular. The like script brooch, like all these items that they bring back every single year, those are going to be going up, as well as shoes. So shoes, like Rev shoes that they bring back every year now, thankfully, after being popular for, you know, a couple of seasons before. So I'm talking like the Sport Trail sneakers, which I really love and they're very comfortable, as well as the combat boots that came out last year. Those are Rev from now on, as well as ballet flats, sling backs, and other classic shoes that you'll see often, perhaps the thong sandals. They're not out this season, I don't think, but perhaps later. And what else am I missing? SLGs. So SLGs, small leather goods, and what falls in an SLG are card holders. There's the Snap card holders, XL card holders, as well as the wallet on chain, which we also consider as a bag, but the wallet on chain is going to go up in price. So this is a rumor. However, it has been confirmed by sales associates around the world. I haven't asked myself. I just find it's silly to repeatedly ask over and over again because it's coming and we can't change it. And I wouldn't want to put somebody in the boutique in an awkward position for disclosing information that they're not supposed to disclose. So we can't avoid it. But the thing is that the panic buying will probably start. We're already at the end of a season, so there's probably not much stock left. And Cruise is launching November 9th. I don't know if that's a solid date for Canada, but apparently in the US and in France, November 9th is the date that cruise will be launching. Could be it's the same for Canada. I know a lot of you that are watching aren't Canadian. I think a huge percentage of my audience is from the US, so it's probably relevant to you. If I have a Canadian date, I will let you know, but just aim for November 9th, which is convenient because it's right before my birthday. But the thing is that there's going to be a price increase before that. So if you're panic buying, which happens usually before every price increase because everybody wants to get their hands on something now before the price goes up, and that always happens. And so I do anticipate a lot of boutiques will be very busy because people are looking for classic bags and you know, a lot of these items that I've listed that are going to go up. So looks like a lot of things are fair game to go up. So as far as price increases for classic flaps go, if you've been following other people or forums and things like that, you probably already know this information. According to LVCC Lux, price increase for the classic flap in the 2.55 bag, and this is in US dollars, so it sounds better, but US dollars are more expensive than Canada. And honestly, the prices of these bags is they're just so ridiculous now that I don't know whether to laugh or cry. But in a way, you kind of love what you have already right now because you know that you bought them at a much cheaper price before. But I don't know, we'll talk about this. But anyway, the small classic flap is projected to be $8,200 US. That's without tax, so before tax. The medium classic flap will be $8,800 US before tax. Jumbo will be $9,500 US before tax, and the maxi will be $10,000 US dollars before tax. That's a lot. They just really had to round that number, didn't they? 10,000, eh? Very close to what Hermes quota bags are going to be. Maybe a little bit less, but kind of up there. The 2.55 also has corresponding sizes, although they're kind of like in between the classics, as you know, but similar idea. Now, Vivian Vogue also is from Australia, and somebody sent me Purse on Fleek's story as well, also a big YouTuber in Australia that is you know, talks about a lot of luxury, and Vivian Vogue as well also posts a lot of content on luxury. And they've confirmed, as per their sales associates, that there is going to be a 20% increase November 3rd. So the small classic flap in Australian dollars going from 10,270 Australian dollars, and I believe that's including tax because in Australia they don't have sales tax. I hope it's including tax, is going to go to 12,340 Australian dollars. The medium classic flap was formerly 11,170 Australian dollars, and now it's going to be 13,190 Australian dollars. That is absolutely crazy, and I'm a little bit surprised because I was hoping that the classics would be spared this price increase, and that maybe Chanel would sneak in a currency adjustment like they did last year. So the currency adjustment was just kind of accommodating for the fluctuating dollar. So last year in November there was no price increase on the classic flaps and 2.55s, but then the price did change a little bit by like $100 or $50 or $150 depending on the size of the flap. And that was just to, you know, harmonize the pricing between Canada and the US. Doesn't look like that's the case based on these rumors. I don't know if these are true, but I mean, it's quite harsh because the price increases are a lot more aggressive, as I've said before lately. We just underwent like a 20% increase just this July, and that amounted to $800 to almost $900 or $1,000 per size in classics, and then you don't forget tax, right? So that is crazy that would happen twice in a year, and I'm quite surprised. I don't know what to believe anymore, but at the same time, it's been going on so often that something's going on for sure. Why are these price increases happening? Everything's going up. If you even like the things that we buy every day, groceries have gone up a lot. and people, and I can't remember, somebody was telling me, there was somebody who posted this on there, I don't know who it was, but they were telling me that this person, this individual purchases the same grocery items every week, and she had reported that the grocery bill has gone up 3 times of what she spent before. And I can believe that. A lot of stuff has been going up, and apparently your supply chain is going to face some sort of crisis. I'm not well versed in understanding these things. If you do work in supply chain, or you work in a sector that understands economics and trends, as well as in the financial market, then I'd love to hear your opinions. I know luxury is like luxury brands, these are first world problems, but if you extrapolate to the bigger picture, let's try to understand what's happening. Maybe Chanel and other luxury houses, because they're not the only ones that do price increases. Fendi did a massive one, and it kind of went under because it doesn't get as much media attention as, say, somebody like Chanel. But like what's happening in the bigger picture, maybe Chanel is bracing for a supply chain crisis. I saw somebody post, like, there's like a TikTok video. You can learn a lot on TikTok. There's a lot of experts, there's doctors, there's psychiatrists, there are like many people that share great ideas, and you can learn a lot. And he had shown there's like satellite footage of all the coastal lines in the world, and you can see that there are ships parked, and they're just parked there, and it's because there's nobody to offload them apparently, or there's got to be something to do with customs and border patrol or whatnot. But in the next coming months, we're not going to get a lot of these supplies in. So if you have limited supplies and limited raw materials, then of course there is going to be changes into how much you can produce because you're not getting these raw materials. But yeah, that might have something to do with it, but they want to keep Chanel wants to keep their profits up, and they're bracing for perhaps a supply crisis. I don't know. But it's quite harsh to have an increase twice in the year. Like, I really don't know what to think anymore. And so now the next topic, which is quite intimately related to price increase, is buying limits. So there are apparently going to be buying limits, this is the rumor that was circulating, of 2 bags a year, 1 classic flap or reissue, and 1 cocoa handle per year. I refuse to believe that that is true. I've asked sales associates here if that is true, and they were like, that's ridiculous, we've never heard of that. So there are buying limits, and I did mention this in previous videos. Of course there are buying limits. You can get flagged in the system if you buy too many bags, or you buy too many costume jewelry items, or too many, what else do they sell? Shoes, but I don't know, but too many of something, particularly bags and small leather goods, that you can get flagged that you're at limit, and people have been told that they're at limit. And there are buying limits, of course. I think they probably were in existence before too, because they could think that it's suspicious if you're buying a lot of these items. For many reasons it could be suspicious, like they might be concerned with, okay, well, like, where's the money coming from, right? And they can probably ask or stop you from buying. Or they might be concerned with you selling, right? And this was mainly because of reselling, and reselling has been a bit of a problem over the last, at least I've noticed in the last 2 years, but perhaps it was happening before and I just was living under a rock and I wasn't even paying attention to that. But I've seen screenshots posted by people who got these messages from their sales associates, particularly in Asian countries, where they've been told that you can only purchase 1 classic flap a year and 1 cocoa handle a year. Now, why the cocoa handle? The cocoa handle has been, I mean, people were sleeping on it before, even myself, I was sleeping on it before, but it's become increasingly popular because of the price point. So the price point of a cocoa handle, very classic looking bag with a top handle and a detachable strap, has like kind of a trapezoid appearance. It's a very classic shape. Some people love the cocoa handle, some people hate it, and some people are in between. But It was a fabric lined bag. They don't do the exotic handle anymore, but in caviar, first of all, in caviar, it's a caviar leather bag. That's a very attractive selling point for a lot of people because they're concerned about lambskin and they don't want wear and tear on their expensive handbags, because even though Coco handle is relatively affordable, it's still expensive, right? So I can understand any caviar small bag that comes out, it's a hot seller because people prefer to have that sort of leather, especially if they don't want their bags to get ruined or scuffed. But I'll tell you, just lambskin is actually the way to go. I love lambskin, and if I could have it, I would have everything in lambskin. So, and I'll do a video on that later on about smooth leathers in general. But it was popular, and price point, it's so much cheaper by today's standards than a classic flap. Even like the medium size Coco handle, which is quite large, it's nearly the size of a jumbo classic flap, and it's like almost like half the price. So especially now that they've changed the interior to a leather interior, also very popular. But the Coco handle is very popular in the small and the mini size that they came out with, which is very tiny. So they're very popular. They're usually the first ones to sell when a collection launches, as well as, you know, like minis are very popular too because of the price point, right? So, and then of course you have the long crossbody strap, which also the Coco handle you can to some extent wear crossbody and add an extension piece as well. So they're very popular, and also flying off the resale market as well. People are spending a lot more money, you know, on attaining these bags because they're so popular. So there's a limit now. When I saw those screenshots, I'm like, okay, so maybe this is a regional thing, right? Apparently it's happening in the UK as well. So could be in the UK because of supply chain issues. Of course, Brexit happened January of 2021. And so they've also stopped doing their VAT refund for non-UK residents, as well as they've stopped the duty-free at the airport, which is tragic. I was looking forward to flying through Heathrow again. That's not happening. So there's no duty-free there anyway. So it's changed. A lot of that has changed because of Brexit and the rules that came about. So Amaya Lux has also mentioned before in a previous video, she's a UK YouTuber, and she was talking about ordering from European luxury sites like Luisa Via Roma, and then what else is another one? I think Maya Teresa as well, and that it's a little bit more complicated when you do returns and when you buy because they're still trying to figure out the tax situation. So bringing items over that border is a little bit, there's more logistics involved, so it could be that the supplies are low, and that's why they're limiting this in the UK. I don't know if it's true though. But I'm surprised because it seems that sales are down in the UK because Canada received a huge stock shipment from the UK of SLGs. So like wallets and things like that for the 21K collection, as well as some older stuff as well that's come in from the UK. So sometimes boutiques across the world, depending on what head office says, will swap things around. So maybe there's less incentive for people to buy there because not as many tourists, as well as also if there are tourists, that there's no incentive to buy because they're not getting their tax back. So I asked about these limits when these rumors were circulating of only 2 of these bags a year, and I was told here in Canada that that is not true. You can still buy, well, here's the thing. Back in July, I was told, and I mentioned this in a previous video, that classic flaps are now going to be becoming a quota bag, meaning that the boutique will only be limited as to how many of these classic flaps they can purchase for the boutique. So especially in classic colors like black and beige clair. But overall, there's only so many that they can purchase, especially for beige clair. Beige clair is actually quite hard to find, and apparently they can only order so many in the country. I don't know why. But apparently these are quota bags and that they are limiting them. You can only purchase one per season or something like that. So that was announced before to me, and the same goes now as well, that you can only purchase one classic flap every season, and there are 6 seasons in a year, so that means every 2 months. That's very, very, very reasonable, even as I've said before too. Extremely reasonable, that you can only purchase one every season. There is some wiggle room, especially like, let's say for example, like you don't buy anything for like a couple of years, and then one season rolls around and you're like, you know what, I want to buy a bag. And they have black, and they have a beautiful seasonal color. Maybe it's a blue, or maybe it's a pink or a gold or something, and you really love that as well. You'll most likely be able to buy both. They're not going to say, well, you can only buy one, right? We don't know about the future, but depending on the client and depending on, you know, if you give reseller vibes, they're probably not going to let you. But if they know you as a person, or even if you're a genuine customer, you can tell, right? I don't think they'll have any issues selling those bags in multiples for that season. But currently, that's what we're told, and it might be enforced in places where you have limited supply. They've had these limits in Europe, particularly in France, if you're a tourist. So every 60 days you can only purchase one bag. And that was, you know, then you get a tax refund and all that stuff, but one bag per passport, basically every 60 days. And I think that is still the case. But I remember one time I was in France. Now, they made an exception one year, and it was because it was the launch of a new collection, and they had a lot of stock in boutique, and they were like, yeah, you can buy multiple earrings, you can buy multiple SLGs, you can buy multiple bags. Like, it wasn't an issue. And one time I went, it was the tail end of a season where they were, you know, running out of stock, and the next season launch was, I think, in like 2 weeks or something. And that's when they were very strict, and they said, if you've already purchased a bag, I'm sorry, you can't purchase another one. Or if you've already purchased an SLG, you cannot purchase another one. And I think it was only like, I think the limit was 2 SLGs per passport. But certainly there have been times where they had lots of stock and you were able to buy more. So I think that will be the same thing here, but in places that have a very competitive market, like in Asia, in the UK, it might be enforced more strictly than it would be here. I also overheard a sales associate telling a customer while I was waiting, she was showing this customer a classic flap and said, you know, these don't come in very often, we just get so few of them. And perhaps that's true. Classic flaps, somebody had said that they're not on display. They are on display. Sometimes they'll have like one maxi or jumbo size on display or some unique variation. But in the past as well, they've always had classic flaps in the cabinet that they open, or they'll have them in the back. They don't usually have them on display because they're trying to showcase seasonal bags, which are always fun and beautiful. So the classics, I've never, even before all this stuff happened, I've never seen classics really on display. So I don't think that has anything to really do with this. So as I've mentioned before, and I'm sure a lot of this thought goes through everybody's minds, these limits are actually quite reasonable. What person is buying, even if let's say it's one bag a month, let's just say, that's 12 handbags a year, and these handbags are not cheap. By today's standards, these prices these days, they're close to 10,000 Canadian, 8,000 US, 9,000 US with tax and all. Some maybe 6,000, some maybe 5,000. These are still very, very expensive handbags. Purchasing 12 a year is excessive, but there may be different reasons why people buy so many. Of course, the limits are there, first of all, to limit reselling, okay? Because if somebody came in and bought like half the boutique, right, and sold everything because if you buy it all up, like, you can be a scalper, right? So that's what was happening. People were scalping bags and then selling, like, upping the price to a very healthy profit. And then there's loss of control there. So I don't blame them for implementing limits because they have to protect their brand and their product. But the thing is that, like, what normal person is buying that much. Like heck, even myself, if I like buy like a couple of handbags, I feel like, whoa, like that's a lot of handbags. Like I need to slow down. I don't need that many. And it's excessive. You feel kind of gluttonous, right? You're like, that's way too many. Even if you can afford it. Let's say you had like lots of money, and I remember watching people who post like photos of their closets, people like Jamie Chua, who has like I don't know how many Hermes Birkins and Kellys, and other people who have like 40, 50 Chanel handbags, and you look at it and you're like, wow, like how do you not feel kind of sick, right? And yes, if you can afford and you have all the money, and definitely you can buy whatever you want. Even if you don't have the money, you can buy whatever you want. I don't need to judge anybody for how they spend their money. But the thing is that you can't keep track of it, right? Like you need the storage space, and then second, the mental capacity to categorize all those handbags in your head and remember what you have and style all of them and keep track of what you have. That takes a lot of mental energy as well, and a lot of space in your brain. So you may not afford to have that space. So nobody's really buying, like nobody needs to buy that many handbags. And let's say if you do, at some point your collection is going to be quite redundant, because especially nowadays with the new creative director, Virginie Viard, who is you know, a lot of people appreciate this, that, you know, she's bringing out colors that people have always lusted after, like light pinks, light beiges, pastel colors, a lot of golds and metallics, and a lot of neutrals that she's bringing out. And it's repeating. There isn't, there's pinks coming in cruise again, right? Like 2 different pinks, and there were pinks in the spring summer collection. So like the unicorns are also repeating themselves as well. So there's a lot of repetition, and at some point your bag collection will be redundant. Like you can have many black bags, and then okay, you'll buy some beige, and then you'll buy some pinks, and then you'll buy some blues and some greens and white and golds, right? Like, and you can have multiple, that's fine. I have multiple black bags, I have multiple gold bags, like that's okay. But then there comes a point where, you know, you're not gonna use all of them. You're gonna prefer one black bag or a couple of black bags over the rest of your black bags, or a couple of pink bags over the rest of your pink bags. So like there is, if you can afford to and you can buy and collect, but even then it's going to be redundant, and you're going to be like, okay, well, I don't really use these. And unless you sell them off, like if you feel like, okay, there's always a new collection coming out and you want the newest thing, and in order to do that, you're selling a handbag that you've had for a couple of years and you've kind of fallen out of love with, that's okay too. People do that. That's what the secondhand market was for. It was people who purchased handbags and they're not using them anymore, or they've grown out of them, or they want to sell them to take the money out and put towards a new purchase. That's kind of what the secondhand market was for, and people were benefiting off of that because they were buying handbags at a cheaper price than they would retail. So it kind of benefited everybody, and it was, you know, sustainable, right? Like if you want to keep buying bags, then at some point you're gonna have to clear what you have, unless you can of course afford to have them just sitting around and collecting dust, and that's okay. That's okay too. If you can do that, that you do you, that's okay. There's also an illusion that in this luxury sphere or community that everybody is wearing a Chanel bag, or everybody has an Hermes bag all of a sudden, and everybody has Dior, and everybody has LV, and everybody has you know, what other luxury brands are there, like. And even when I did that basic luxury video, and I talked about this, and I said that it's not saturated. These are special items, and people dream and they save up for this item, and they look forward to using it and proudly carrying it. People around you may not even know what Chanel is. And I'm serious, there are people who I've ran into that don't know. They don't know. They're very innocent. And we think, like, how do you not know, right? Like, but there are people who don't know what Hermes is. There are people that don't know what Fendi is. There are people that don't know what Dior is, right? Like, there are a lot of innocent people in our surroundings that don't know what these luxury houses are and how much these items cost. Like, let's say you clicked on a YouTube channel or a YouTube video that talks about a luxury brand. Let's say they talk about Louis Vuitton, okay? And the social media algorithm, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, knows that you clicked on that video and follows you and sees how long you've watched that video or looked at that photo for or whatever. There's a lot of creepy analytics about us as consumers of this information. And then it'll suggest other pages and other channels and other videos that you may be interested in based on the interest that you've expressed in this item. So it's a lot of smart data that's there. And so it may appear that all of a sudden you open up YouTube, or you open up some other, like you open up TikTok, or you open up Facebook or Instagram, and all of a sudden all the videos you're seeing, everybody's unboxing a handbag, a Chanel handbag, a Louis Vuitton handbag. And you then think that everybody out on the street also is wearing all of this, but that's not true, right? Because we are creating that sphere by us watching, like we're actively seeking out the information, and then in so forth, that information is seeking us. So it's a very, very small population of the world that purchases these things. If I go out into the city, there are of course little portions and pockets of the city, like you could go to some high-end areas, like Bloor Yorkville is kind of like your New York Fifth Avenue, okay? Or like LA's Rodeo Drive, right? Like you'll see people wearing MS Birkins. I've seen many Birkins. Like it's not even rare anymore. I see them as I turn the corner. There's so many MS Birkins that I see when I am in that area. And Chanel handbags, right? So you see so many there, but if I go anywhere else, I don't see that. Even in some like very high-end rich areas, like I don't see people just walking around with like a handbag. It's not like that. And anywhere else in the city, like people aren't, you don't see these. So it's not saturated. And I know people are saying, well, Chanel doesn't want their bags to be saturated. And to an extent that might be true. It could be saturation for them, okay? Maybe they just don't want it, like they don't want these bags to flood the resale market and lose their appeal. And they want people to stop consuming and like buying these bags, perhaps because they can't keep up with production, which is why they outsource to factories outside of France. And perhaps they're having issues with quality control because they have to constantly produce so much of it, and now they cannot maintain the quality that they want to. And a lot of people are arguing that the quality is terrible, and although we've talked about that before, they want to maintain that exclusivity. If you start limiting these purchases, it might turn into Hermès, where these bags are now being sold well above retail on the secondhand market. So that will further, I mean, I don't know, that it just seems like it's a slippery slope. We don't know what's going to happen. I guess come November 3rd, whenever there's a price increase, and if these limits are enforced, we'll see what happens, and let's see what we can forecast at that point what the trend will be. I understand people want to build their collection very quickly, especially now with such aggressive price increases. Like if somebody thinks, okay, you know what, I want to own 7 luxury handbags. These are the bags I want. I want a trendy CC, I want 2 classic flaps in black and beige, I want a reissue, I want a boy bag, I want a 19, and I want a wallet on chain. Okay, maybe those are your 7 bags. And one for every day of the week. But let's say that somebody has this on their wish list and they can afford to buy all 7 in 1 year. That person is smart to do so, because every year prices go up aggressively, 20%, like we've seen this year, and supposedly in the next couple of days it's going to go up even more. So you'd be a smart buyer to buy all of those at once. Yes, it takes away the fun and the enjoyment of, you know, making a memory with purchasing and building a collection over time, because you purchased at different stages of your life, and when you look on that piece you're like, oh wow, like I bought this when I was 20 years old, I bought this when I was 30 years old. I bought this when I was 25 or 35, right? So you might not have that milestone purchasing where you're buying something on your birthday or you're buying something for Christmas and you have a memory attached to it. You're just buying for the sake of building your collection, and that's okay too. And I respect why somebody would want to build very quickly because the prices are going up. Same with, and I'm not saying this is an investment, but same thing with anything that goes up, right? Like gold, right? Real estate, right? Like if you can afford to, you will probably buy multiples because you know that the prices are going up, and it would be smart to do so now versus over the spread of a couple of years where you're going to be spending more than you planned on. I don't think there will be repeated offenders with multiple buying anyway, unless you're a reseller or unless you're a personal shopper. But I believe that it'll be cohorts, right? So even now, a cohort of individuals, men and women, will buy these handbags, and then eventually they'll have their collection and they'll fizzle out, right? They'll move on, unless they're selling some of their old stuff and then buying new stuff and, you know, recycling through their collection that way. But in general, when you have everything, you're just kind of like, okay, I'm done with that. I'm going to move on with something else. And then you might have another cohort that comes up that's like, you know, a younger cohort that is starting their collection, and they may want to buy multiple bags in a year to grow their collection really quickly because the prices are going to be insane. So I don't think it'll be the same repeated offenders that are just going to be buying all the time for the rest of their life. It's going to come in waves, and they're going to be cohorts, and that's probably what they're trying to limit. On the one hand, if there are less people buying, maybe that will curb the price increases, because perhaps the price increases aren't just due to greed and increasing profits or maintaining profits. I don't know what the costs are now of materials, but definitely it's not that much. But definitely a profit thing. Maybe if they curb purchasing, that will also slow down the price increases, which we know is the marketing strategy, right? Like the price increases are what make people keep buying. But what if it operated in the reverse and they stopped people from buying so many, and then they can not bring the price down, but stop it from jumping up so high? We don't know. I don't know if it's like a chicken or the egg thing. Is it the marketing strategy that they're increasing prices aggressively all the time in order to lure buyers from buying more and more and more? Because that's what we've always thought, right? Like they're increasing pricing, that's their marketing strategy to get people to buy more. Or does it work in reverse? Do we drive the price increases up? Or is it both? Let me know what your thoughts are. Like I'm trying to wrap my head around how this all works, but it's just getting ridiculous. And you know, they're coming out with these tiny like SLGs, which are now deemed small bags. They're literally card holders on a chain, and they're charging $3,000 for it, or nearly $4,000 for it, and it's ridiculous. And that's like your entry level piece now. And then people are still going to want the classic flap when they buy that. So there's like a lot of distractions that they're creating to get people to buy into the brand. So they probably want to limit aggregate buying, or people from, dodging price increases by getting their collection together quickly in a year so that they don't have to pay the increased price. If they're curbing purchasing, how are they going to meet their corporate financial goals, because it seems like bags and leather goods are their most popular item. There aren't really a lot of people buying their clothes. But overall, if they curb over purchasing, it is a positive thing because of social media and a lot of the pictures we're bombarded with, and a lot of the information, not bombarded because we also look for it, but then it looks for us, so we're kind of bombarded. But it makes you want the next best thing, and you don't enjoy what you have currently. You buy something because everybody wants it, and you may not actually like it yourself, but you buy it because everybody's desiring it, so it makes you desire it as well. And then once you buy it, you're like, okay, I've got this now. Okay, let me see what else is new. And that, I think, needs to stop overall. I mean, we're all guilty of this, and it's like that in every sector. It's like that with clothing, it's like that with luxury, it's like that with a lot of things. Anyway, I think those are all of the thoughts that I had so far. They don't change anytime there is a price increase. we just sort of accept it and move on, and we know it's not going to change. I don't know what's going to happen in Canada, and I don't know if Australia's confirmed price increase is such because perhaps their pricing was less than North America or less than Europe. I don't know. I'll have to convert and see if they're harmonizing it. That's why they're doing it, but I don't think so, because I'm pretty sure Australia had the price increase in July as well. Anyway, I hope this video gave you some food for thought, and I'd love to hear your feedback and what you think in the comment section down below. I know a lot of you work in these fields of economics and the financial sector and investments and all that, and may have some insight as to what's happening with supply chain, because I'm pretty sure this has something to do with it. And just the overall big picture of what we're heading towards. Stay tuned for other videos. I will post very soon whatever I filmed, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.